There's only a few steps you need to follow to write an email that a copywriting client will be willing to pay you at least $100 for. In this video, I'm going to share with you the exact steps that I take to write emails that can make good money. And as a bonus, at the end of this video, I'll tell you what else you need to learn in order to actually get clients to pay you for your emails. So there are a handful of things that you need to bear in mind before starting to write. Number 1. Think about the end goal of the email. Sometimes your client will want you to send a value email that doesn't have a link in it for the reader to click. You're just sending the email with useful information or to try and get some hype going. But in most cases, you're going to be sending the email to try and get the reader to click on a link to a sales page or webinar and then convert them into a sale from there. So the first step is to ask, is this a value email or are you trying to get the reader to click on a link? The next step is to get the email opened in the first place, and that's done with the subject line. There's no magic secret to subject lines. You just need to make sure that's a pattern interrupt, which just means that it's something unexpected, but the subject line also has to be relevant to the contents of the email. It's quite hard to write a subject line before writing the email, so I usually write the subject line as the last thing that I do. And as a general rule, you want to keep the subject line under 40 characters in length. If it's longer than 40 characters, it's going to get truncated on a mobile phone. Now that the email has been opened, it's time to write the first and second line. The first line should validate the click, so you want to make the reader feel they made a good decision by clicking on the email. Here's an example of not validating the click. Let's say you're on YouTube and you click on a video with the title, How to Drive a Car. But then you click on the video and the guy starts talking about how a car works instead of teaching you how to actually drive the car. In that case, the guy hasn't validated the click, therefore chances are you're going to click off the video and probably never watch his videos again. So you have to validate the click first. With this video, you came here to learn how a copywriter writes emails, and I got right into explaining how to write emails, which is me validating the click to keep you here. The second line of an email is the hook. The hook is there to make the reader want to read the rest of the email. You do this by using an open loop. An open loop is where you make the reader want certain information, but then you don't give it to them immediately. Instead, you give it to them in the main body of the email. Now that you have the subject line, the first line, and the hook out of the way, it's time to write the main body of the email. The purpose of the main body is to sell the click. You want to persuade the reader to click through to the next stage of your client's funnel. But you don't do that by pitching the product, which is what most noob copywriters do. You do it by providing value in the main body and then leaving an open loop again. I'm going to break down an email that I wrote for an SMMA coach for you right now, and you'll see this in action. So the subject line is how a fighter pilot gets clients. And right away you can see that subject line is a pattern interrupt, because fighter pilots don't have clients, they work for the government, so it's a slightly confusing subject line and that makes the reader want to click on it and get an explanation. Also in this case the target audience was young males, so having a military theme will get their attention better than other themes. That being said, you don't want the subject line to be so confusing that the subject line doesn't make any sense at all. But let's carry on with the email. So, hello first name, you're about to learn a core principle of the best air force on the planet. And there we go, I've validated the click on the first line. And how that applies to the biggest problem in your SMMA journey, client acquisition. So you can see at this point I've hooked the reader in by saying how the email will apply to them by relating to their biggest problem in their SMMA journey. So carrying on. Far too many SMMA entrepreneurs send me DMs asking what the best outreach script is. And truth be told, there isn't a best outreach script. That's because scripts get saturated fast. Think about it. If I tell my 300k subscribers the best outreach message, and then just 1% of you blast out 100 DMs with that exact script, that's 300,000 DMs sent with that script. This is a copywriting technique known as quantifying in order to put things into perspective. There's a right and a wrong way to use quantification, but that's beyond the scope of this video, so let's carry on. So it's safe to say that if you want clients, a script isn't the way to go. So what should you use instead of a script? The OODA loop. OODA stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. This was a military strategy developed by the legendary fighter pilot Colonel John Boyd. And this email is quite long, so I've validated the click for a second time in the email. And if you don't do that in a longer email, then the reader will start to question why they're even reading in the first place, because people have short attention spans these days. So in a long email like this, which is about 500 words long, you need to remind the reader of why they clicked in the body of the email as well as the first line of the email. So I'll continue. Colonel Boyd never lost a single dogfight during his service. His system was surprisingly simple. He would observe the threat, orient his weapon system to the threat, decide whether to take it out, and then act by pulling the trigger, defeating his adversary. In the context of SMMA, here's what the OODA loop looks like. So again, just like in the second line of the email, I'm showing the reader how this email relates to them so that they don't click off, and to make sure that they read the whole thing. So onto the bullet points now of the email. So observe, look at the principles and intentions behind outreach scripts that are currently being used. Orient, now pick out the core principles behind the messages. Decide which principles are the best to use in your message, and act by putting those principles into your message and sending them out. Note, the OODA loop is a loop. That means it's an iterative process. Once you have tried and tested a principle-based DM formula, you need to see how it performed. This is your observe stage. Then go through the OODA loop again and again until you see what works. This is the number one method to craft a unique outreach message that pops, instead of getting drowned in your prospect inbox flooded with agency owners. But you need to know one thing, and at this point in the email I'm going to open another loop that will entice the reader to click on the link at the end of the email and move them on to the next stage of my client's funnel. Going online and scraping through outreach scripts is going to be a waste of time, because most outreach messages are rubbish. Trust me, I get 50 plus per day. But what's not rubbish are the outreach messages from 90-day SMMA students. So the best way to see what works is to get inside the community for the real source. Some students are getting clients within their first 50 DMs. So here I've shared a dream outcome that the reader wants, and that primes the reader to click on the link when I present it. You can click this link to a presentation where I explain what they're doing to get results like that. And the reason I called it a presentation is because nobody wants to be sold to these days. Instead, they want to be educated. So you have to disguise your selling as education, because people see hundreds of ads. So you can see how the very simple concepts I explained at the start of this video can help you write emails that you can sell to your clients for at least $100, even if you're a beginner. It's worth getting good at writing emails, because emails are the only part of your client's sales funnel that's an ongoing job. Sales pages and VSLs and opt-in forms are one-time jobs, so you won't be able to get retainer clients with just those services. So if you want to make money with copywriting, emails are the first thing that you need to master. If you focus on everything that I've mentioned in this video, I really believe that you can easily write emails that clients will be willing to pay you a lot of money for. I've just shared a lot of my experience with you in this video, but there's still a lot more that goes into becoming a full-time copywriter. You need to learn the principles of persuasion and influence, the process of writing copy, how to structure your writing, how to find prospects and then get their attention with outreach, and things like follow up until you get a response, how to close your prospect on a sales call, and then the last stage will be how to deliver work to clients and get paid, and then scale your income and what you're charging them as well. I've mentioned this before, but I've looked back at my freelancing career and put together a guide for people looking for a direct route to becoming a copywriter. The guide covers everything that you need to know to add to your current income with freelance copywriting, and maybe even become a full-time copywriter if that's what you want to do. And in the guide, I don't just stop after teaching you the very basics about marketing, copywriting, sales, and the other practical skills that copywriters need. I also give you the in-depth details from my personal experience so that you can turn the theory into real skill and get you to a level where writing high converting copy and getting clients is second nature. There aren't that many differences between a novice copywriter making no money and a full-time copywriter making thousands. The purpose of this guide is to help you make the small tweaks needed in the fastest time possible and skip the time-wasting mistakes that most copywriters will fall into. And to do that, you'll get access to teaching material that I've written and compiled myself. This includes modules on pretty much every subject matter that you need to know in order to start making money with copywriting. And if you sign up with the link in the description, you'll get immediate access to everything that's currently in the course, and access to whatever else is added in the future at no extra cost. Like I said, I share a lot from my experience on this channel, but if you want to get lifetime access to a structured copywriting guide that gives you all the knowledge you need and guides you on how to develop your skills, then you're welcome to enroll and level up your copywriting. The link to do so is in the description below. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.